You've been told that intense sexual attraction is beautiful, natural, pure chemistry. But there's something psychology doesn't want you to know. Sometimes the person you desire most is the exact person sent to destroy you, and your unconscious mind is the one making the introduction. You know that feeling, right? That moment when someone walks into a room and your entire nervous system lights up like a Christmas tree. Your heart pounds, your mind goes blank. Every cell in your body screams them. You tell yourself it's chemistry, it's fate, it's that magical thing they write songs about. But what if everything you've been told about sexual attraction is a lie? What if that racing heart isn't love recognizing love, but wound recognizing wound? What if that person who makes you feel like you're dying and coming alive at the same time isn't your soulmate, but your psychological trap? Think about it. Really think about it. The people you've been most attracted to, the ones who kept you up at night, who made you question your sanity, who had you checking your phone every 30 seconds, were they actually good for you? Or did they feel familiar in a way that both terrified and thrilled you? You've been conditioned to believe that intense attraction equals deep connection, that the stronger the pull, the more meant to be it is. Society sells you this story that real love should make you crazy, should consume you, should feel like you can't breathe without them. But Carl Jung would look you dead in the eye and say, no, that's not love, that's projection. And projection is the most dangerous drug your psyche can manufacture. Here's what they don't tell you in all those romantic movies and love songs. Sexual attraction is often psychological quicksand. The deeper you sink, the more you struggle, the more trapped you become. And the whole time, you're calling it love. You think you're choosing who to desire, who to chase, who to lose sleep over. But what if every single move you make in your love life isn't really made by you at all? What if there's an unconscious part of you that's been pulling the strings this entire time, leading you toward the same emotional car crash over and over again, just with different license plates? You probably have a type, right? And if you're honest, really honest, that type has probably brought you more pain than peace. Maybe you're drawn to the charming but emotionally unavailable. Maybe you crave the intense but unstable. Maybe you find yourself losing interest the moment someone shows you genuine care and consistency. And you've probably said to yourself, why am I only attracted to people who hurt me? Or, I lose interest when they're too nice. Sound familiar? It's not a character flaw. It's not bad luck. It's programming. And that programming runs so deep, so automatically, that you mistake it for preference. You mistake it for just what you like. But Jung would tell you, you don't have preferences. You have unfinished business. Jung discovered something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Inside every one of us lives an unconscious opposite. He called it the Anima in men and the Animus in women. These aren't just abstract psychological concepts. They're emotionally charged forces that represent everything you've suppressed, denied, or never developed within yourself. And here's the part that'll mess you up. When you meet someone who reflects your inner anima or animus, your psyche doesn't just light up. It explodes. It screams, there. That person holds everything you lack. So you don't fall in love with them. You fall in love with yourself. Or rather, with the part of yourself you've never met. This is why sexual attraction often feels completely irrational. You might know logically that this person is unavailable, toxic, manipulative, or just straight up bad news. But the pull is stronger than your logic, stronger than your friend's advice, stronger than your own better judgment. You feel addicted, haunted, spellbound. It's because your unconscious has mistaken them for completion. Now imagine what this means in a world where people, consciously or not, learn to weaponize this truth. Where some women instinctively understand that the way to dominate a man isn't through aggression, but through reflection, through becoming his unconscious desire made flesh. If a man has never confronted his anima, if he's never looked in the mirror and asked, why do I crave what I crave? What am I really seeking in these women? Then he's not choosing. He's being chosen by his wound. And if she knows how to play that role, whether she's aware of it or not, he will surrender everything. He'll call it love. But it's just projection. She isn't the one. She's a mirror reflecting his unfinished psychological business back at him. Here's what's terrifying about this. In our modern world, some people have learned to weaponize this truth. They've figured out, consciously or unconsciously, that becoming someone's projection is the fastest way to total psychological control. They study you. They mirror back exactly what your wounded inner child is desperate to see. They become the fantasy, the missing piece, the answer to your deepest longing. And once you're hooked, once you're convinced they're your salvation, they have you completely. It's not always malicious. Sometimes they're just as trapped in the pattern as you are. But the result is the same: psychological possession disguised as passion. The same thing happens in reverse. There are women who keep falling for emotionally unavailable men. Men who withhold affection like it's some kind of prize. Men who are charming, exciting, dominant, but also cold, detached, often cruel. And every single time he looks away, every time he pulls back, it doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like a challenge. Maybe if I just prove I'm good enough, he'll choose me. But here's the brutal truth. You weren't drawn to him because he's exciting. You were drawn because he reminds you of someone who never truly saw you. Your father, maybe. Your first heartbreak. The man who taught you that love must be earned, that being ignored means you need to try harder. So what does your psyche do? It tries to finish the story. It hopes this man, this time, will give you the closure your father never did. But he won't, because he's not your father. And this isn't healing, it's repetition. This is where it gets dark, really dark. Jung said something chilling. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But in the case of sexual attraction driven by the shadow, that transformation isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's obsessive, sometimes it's destructive, sometimes it reduces a person to nothing more than their desire. Let me tell you about a man I know. Successful, emotionally intelligent, respected by everyone around him. But every time he fell in love, it was with a woman who emotionally rejected him. One woman left him for someone else. Another ghosted him after intense intimacy. Another mocked him when he showed vulnerability. Different women, same story. Logically, he knew these women weren't right for him. He even warned his friends, "She's not healthy for me." But he kept going back. Why? Because his unconscious wasn't trying to find love. It was trying to resolve pain. This man grew up with a distant, cold mother. A woman who didn't show affection, who made him feel invisible. So now, as an adult, his psyche is constantly seeking that same feeling, but hoping to fix it this time. He's not chasing women, he's chasing his mother's ghost. This is what Jung called a repetition compulsion. You recreate the pain again and again until you finally become conscious of it. And the moment you do, the spell breaks. But until that moment of awareness, you're trapped in an endless loop. Sexual energy, one of the most powerful forces in the human psyche, becomes entangled with your deepest emotional wounds. It's not just about pleasure anymore. It's tied to identity, safety, power, validation, and when that energy mixes with unhealed trauma, it becomes magnetic, explosive, but also destructive. This is how sexual attraction becomes a psychological prison. You're not addicted to the person. You're addicted to the wound they represent, to the hope of finally winning, finally healing. But here's what's truly terrifying. There are people who learn to weaponize this dynamic. Women who realize that sexuality can control a man more powerfully than logic ever could. Not because they're evil, but because it works. They learn that withholding emotional availability while offering intense physical seduction creates a hook, a psychological bond stronger than most people can break. They mimic the man's anima. They become the fantasy, not the real woman. And the more the man chases, the more powerful she feels. It's psychological domination disguised as romance. But here's the twist. She doesn't love him either. She loves the control. She loves watching him lose himself because it gives her back something she lost long ago. Power, safety, maybe even revenge. And let's be real about this. There are women who have mastered this game, who've learned that withholding emotional availability while offering intense physical seduction creates a hook stronger than most men can break. They become experts at reading a man's anima, at becoming exactly what his unconscious craves. It's psychological domination, but it feels like romance. It's manipulation, but it looks like desire. And the more intense it gets, the more both people mistake it for love. This is the darkest corner of sexual attraction, where two people aren't meeting with open hearts, but with broken mirrors. Where intimacy isn't real, it's performance. Where both sides are using the other to fix something from the past. The woman gets her power back by watching him lose his mind. The man gets to replay his childhood wound, hoping this time he'll win. But nobody actually wins, because nobody is actually present. They're both just ghosts from the past, dancing to music that stopped playing years ago. The more intense it feels, the more dangerous it becomes. But Jung didn't reveal this darkness to leave us hopeless. He did it to set us free. Because once you see the puppet strings, you can cut them. The first step is brutal honesty about your patterns. Look at the last few people you've been intensely attracted to. Not just, oh, they were cute, attracted, but the ones who made you feel a little insane. The ones you couldn't stop thinking about. What did they have in common? Not their hair color or their job, their emotional pattern. How did they make you feel? Rejected, challenged, like you had to earn their attention? Or maybe powerful, needed, like you could save them? That pattern, that's your shadow talking. That's your wound choosing for you. Here's what Jung discovered that most people never want to face. We are not attracted to people. We are attracted to emotions we've never resolved. Every intense attraction is your psyche saying, here's that familiar feeling again. Let's try to fix it this time. Maybe you're drawn to people who make you feel rejected because rejection feels like home. Maybe you crave the chase because love was always something you had to earn. Maybe you lose interest when someone shows you real affection because deep down, you don't believe you deserve it. Jung's concept of individuation teaches us that we must integrate all parts of ourselves, the anima, the animus, the shadow, before we can truly choose love consciously. Otherwise, we're just puppets dancing to the rhythm of our unhealed trauma. Real love, according to Jung, can only exist between two individuals, people who have done the hard work of becoming whole within themselves, not perfect, but conscious, not without wounds, but aware of them. When you're still carrying unhealed trauma, it speaks louder than your words, louder than your values, louder than your logic. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And if what you are is still defined by old pain, that pain will keep choosing for you. Here's something most people never realize. Sexual attraction can be manipulated by trauma. The more familiar the wound feels, the more intense the desire becomes. You call it chemistry, but it's really just your nervous system recognizing the frequency of old pain. That's why the most toxic relationships are often the hardest to walk away from. Not because the love is so deep, but because you're emotionally entangled, bound by invisible strings of unhealed pain. And here's the brutal part. Some people instinctively know how to play these strings like a violin. They can sense your wound from across the room and become exactly what it craves. Not because they're evil, but because wounded people are drawn to wounded people. And sometimes, two wounds don't heal each other. They just tear each other apart. So what's the solution? Do you become afraid of attraction? Do you shut down your sexuality? Hell no. But you have to stop assuming that attraction automatically means compatibility. Instead, you become an investigator of your own desire. The next time your heart races around someone, pause. Ask yourself, why do I feel pulled to this person? What emotion are they triggering in me? Is this attraction coming from wholeness or emptiness? Because if your desire is coming from a place of lack, it will always seek to fill a hole. And that hole will never be filled by another person, only by you. Here's how you start. First, map your pattern. Write down the qualities of the last 3 people you were intensely attracted to. Not their surface traits, but how they made you feel emotionally. Did they make you feel rejected, challenged, needed, powerful? That pattern is your unconscious program running the show. Second, trace it back. Where did you first learn that love felt like this? What relationship from your past does this remind you of? Your father? Your mother? Your first heartbreak? Most of our adult attraction patterns are just childhood relationship dynamics on repeat. Third, feel the wound without feeding it. When you recognize the pattern, you'll feel the old pain underneath, the abandonment, the rejection, the not being enough. Feel it. But don't try to fix it by chasing someone who triggers it. That's like trying to heal a broken bone by breaking it again. Fourth, practice conscious attraction. Start paying attention to how you feel around different people. Notice the difference between excitement that comes from anxiety and excitement that comes from genuine joy. Notice the difference between someone who makes your heart race from panic and someone who makes your heart warm with peace. Here's a test. When you think about this person, do you feel calm and centered? Or do you feel anxious, obsessive, like you need to be on all the time? Real attraction feels grounding. Trauma-based attraction feels destabilizing. Real love, conscious love, doesn't always feel like the movies. It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't keep you up at night wondering if you're enough. It feels calm, grounded, maybe even a little boring at first, because your nervous system is so used to chaos that peace feels foreign. But give it time, because peace isn't boring. It's just unfamiliar until you make it your home. The people who will actually love you, who will see you, who will choose you consciously, they might not trigger that old familiar wound. They might not make you feel like you're dying and coming alive at the same time. They'll feel safe. And if you've been addicted to the storm, safety might feel like nothing at first. But safety is everything. Safety is where real intimacy lives. Safety is where you can stop performing and start being. Fifth, rewrite your love story. Instead of asking, "What do I want in a partner?" ask, "What does my healed self want to experience in love?" Instead of seeking someone to complete you, seek someone to share your wholeness with. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless or analytical about love. It means becoming conscious. It means choosing from your adult self, not your wounded child. Jung believed that the ultimate goal of psychological development is individuation, becoming who you truly are, not who your wounds taught you to be. In love, this means the ability to see another person clearly, not as a reflection of your inner drama, but as they actually are. It means being able to choose connection from wholeness rather than desperation. The darkest truth about sexual attraction is that it's often not about the other person at all. It's about you, your unfinished business, your unhealed wounds, your unconscious patterns playing out on the stage of someone else's life. But the liberating truth is this: once you see the mirror, you can step through it. You can stop falling in love with your own reflection and start choosing real people. You can stop being chosen by your trauma and start choosing from your truth. And here's what's beautiful about this process. Once you start choosing consciously, once you break free from the puppet strings of unconscious attraction, you discover something incredible. You discover that real love doesn't feel like a drug. It doesn't feel like you're going crazy. It feels like coming home. It feels like someone seeing the real you, not your anima, not your projection, not your fantasy of what you think they want, but you, the actual you, with all your flaws and fears and beautiful imperfections. That's when Jung's words really hit. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Because when you stop projecting, you start seeing. When you stop trying to complete yourself through someone else, you start appreciating them for who they actually are. The next time someone makes your heart race, ask yourself, is this love or is this my past trying to finish an old story? Because real love doesn't feel like familiar pain dressed up as passion. Real love feels like coming home to yourself with someone else who has also found their way home. That's the love Jung wanted us to find. Not the kind that traps you in cycles of projection and pain, but the kind that frees you to be who you actually are. So before you fall in love with them, fall in love with the parts of you that are still screaming. Listen to them, heal them, and then choose love, not out of desperation, but out of wholeness. That's how you escape the mirror. That's how you choose real love over beautiful illusions. The mirror was never meant to trap you. It was meant to show you what needed healing. Now you know, now you can choose.